Hello, I'm Craig Honeyman, Legislative Director for the League of Oregon Cities. I'm here today with the Intergovernmental Relations Department to bring you an update and a summary of what happened during the 2018 short legislative session. The session adjourned on March 3rd, fully 8 days ahead of the constitutionally required sine die adjournment date. Frankly, it was a roller coaster session for the League. Some ups and downs. We got some significant successes, but also some disappointments along the way. I'm now going to report on a couple of transportation bills, the first of which is House Bill 4059, the Fix-It bill from House Bill 2017, which passed in the 2017 session. I say Fix-It because it is intended to deal with some technical issues that arose out of that legislation. Of note to cities in Oregon, especially small cities, is an amendment that the League gained passage of, which is intended to ensure that small cities are not required to abide by the reporting requirements that large cities have to attend to as a result of the accountability measures in the transportation package. In addition, House Bill 4063 relates to autonomous vehicles. This is the bill that deems the Oregon Department of Transportation as a lead agency dealing with the regulatory process, by the way, which the League of Oregon Cities will be a part of, dealing with the deployment of driverless vehicles, autonomous vehicles in the state of Oregon. I want to turn for a moment now to broadband and telecommunication issues. House Bill 4155 did pass. It's an effort to restore on a limited basis net neutrality to the state of Oregon. This legislation will require that cities doing contracts with internet service providers do so only with those providers that practice net neutrality. There are exceptions to this requirement, one being, of course, if the ISP is the only game in town and they refuse to practice net neutrality, the city would be allowed to do business with that provider. Finally, House Bill 4023 will authorize cities to enter into agreements with the state's chief information officer to access fiber resources that the CIO is providing across the state of Oregon, especially in rural communities, to access on a limited basis or to provide fiber to schools, libraries, and community centers throughout the state.
Hi, I'm Scott Winkles with the League's Intergovernmental Relations team, and I'm going to talk to you about three bills today. The first one deals with public safety, and that's House Bill 4116. This bill deals with distracted driving, and it clarifies what we mean by a hands-free device. So now a hands-free device will be anything that is operated with just simple tap or a swipe. This has been a challenge for enforcement, and it'll be important for your municipal courts and your police departments to take a look at these changes. The next bill I'll talk about is also in the public safety realm, and that's Senate Bill 1544. This deals with marijuana. The first thing the bill does is it makes sure that clarifies this conflict we've had between taxpayer confidentiality and budget law by ensuring that, so now we'll be able to release how much our revenue from marijuana sales in your city. So if you've been heard about that, it's been a concern, we're resolving that as of July 1. The last bill I'll talk to you about is Senate Bill 1566, and this bill deals with PERS. This bill creates the Employer Incentive Fund that acts as a match, so that if a city puts a cash contribution into their site account, the state will match it. What we're projecting is by a 25 cents to $1 match. 25 cents on the dollar match. The bill also reduces the requirement, the threshold for participation in the site account program from $250,000 down to $25,000 to make that a little more user accessible. This is a starting point for PERS. We still have a lot more to do, and it's going to be very important for cities to continue to talk to their legislators about the challenges their PERS rates are causing them. And with that, I'm going to kick this over to Wendy, who will talk about economic development and finance issues.
Hi, I'm Wendy Johnson. I know it's budget season for cities, and I want to tell you that nothing passed in the session that's going to affect your budget, at least as it relates to the substantive provisions of state shared revenues. The numbers we gave you in January should be good to go. They didn't take any more money. Second, I want to tell you that no real bad bills passed for cities in the area of tax and finance. That's the good news, and we were actually on the offense on a couple of areas too. We did successfully get the lodging tax bill through House Bill 4120 that fixed intermediaries, the definitions for them, and made it clear that they need to collect, file, and pay cities. That bill takes effect July 1st, and we ask you to start working on updating your ordinances though to make sure you get the new definitions, and also update your forms. Second, I've already had some questions about, well, when's the Department of Revenue going to be able to collect lodging taxes for us? Well, we got the bill that allows it last session. Now that we have the definitions fixed, we're working on it already, and we hope to, by January 1st, be able to have the Department of Revenue collecting for cities that make that choice. So that's great news. Second, we went on the offensive with the gigabit repeal bill as well, trying to save all taxing districts property tax money for an exemption that just didn't work. Unfortunately, we fell short in the last days of session. It passed the House, that's House Bill 4027, but it didn't pass the Senate. But we'll be back again next session to try to fix that. Lastly, I want to end with a note on property taxes. The short session is no time to really fix something that complicated, but we want you to know that there's a new committee, a joint committee called the Student Success Committee. That committee is co-chaired by Senator Arnie Roblin and Representative Barbara Smith Warner, and has vice chairs of Senator Tim Knope and Representative Greg Smith. And they're joined by 10 more legislators from both sides of the aisle and from both houses. They're going to be traveling the state over the next few months. They had their first meeting this week, and they'll be asking communities what they need to improve to help students succeed in Oregon. That means our education budget needs some reform, and we think they're going to do some revenue reform to make that happen. Measure 5 and Measure 50 were a huge impact on our school budget when we switched from having it property tax focused to income tax focused. And so now's the time to look at the whole system, and we'd like your help to let them know that property tax could help both schools and local governments. So when they stop in your community, we ask you that you stop in, talk to them, and let them know that it's time to fix Measure 5 and 50. Thank you, and I'll turn it over now to Tracy.
Tracy Rutten, League of Oregon Cities, here to provide you with an update on a public contracting bill and some environment legislation that was considered during the recent 2018 legislative session. The first bills I want to touch base on are House Bill 4001 and Senate Bill 1507. Both of these bills propose to implement a cap and invest or cap and trade program in Oregon. The bills would have updated Oregon's greenhouse gas reduction goals and would have established a statewide cap on emissions. Under the bills, regulated entities would be required to purchase allowances or would be distributed free allowances potentially for emissions that they produce. Over time, the cap would be reduced in order to reflect the greenhouse gas reduction goals. Both bills were heavily debated during the session and actually leading into the session. There were 4 work groups that were formed in the fall of 2017 to discuss the details of cap and invest in Oregon. While neither bill passed this session, there was a legislative committee established to continue working on this issue. We anticipate that they will be meeting and will likely propose legislation for the 2019 session. So stay tuned, and if you want any additional information about this policy issue or would like to engage on the issue as those discussions occur, please feel free to contact me. The other bill I want to mention is a public contracting bill that we've talked about in previous videos. That bill is House Bill 4127, dealing with a process known as qualification-based selection. And that is how the current process that is required under law for hiring architects, engineers, land surveyors, and other professional services. The bill that we were working on this session in support of would have provided additional flexibility to the current process by allowing us to select up to 3 firms based on qualifications alone and then consider pricing information from those 3 firms. Current law does not allow us to consider that pricing information until we've entered into a negotiation with the top-ranked firm. We feel the bill would have provided additional flexibility, accountability, and increased overall value for taxpayer dollars. So please stay tuned. We will continue to work on that issue during the interim, and we'll likely see additional legislation in 2019. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erin Doyle. Thank you.
Hi, it's Erin Doyle. The first bill I wanted to talk about is 4007, related to the document recording fee. The bill raised the current fee from $20 to $60, which they expect will raise about $60 million in a biennium. We're hoping now to get that money accessible to local governments for technical assistance on housing projects. The next bill is HB 4086, related to third-party building inspection programs. The bill had two components. The first we supported would have recertified building inspectors who have specialized certifications and work for third-party building inspection services. The second part would have required local governments to have at least 2 additional employees to have a local government-run program. We couldn't support the second part, so we'll be coming back in 2019 related to the certification issue, but we do expect the Building Codes Division to look at shutting down programs that don't have locally employed building officials in the interim. We'll be working with additional stakeholders to see if we can't find another resolution to this problem. The final bill is House Bill 4031, which was an omnibus land use bill. Of importance on this bill was the section related to accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. This fix only addressed the issue of the mandate within counties. No longer are counties required to have ADUs anywhere residential properties are allowed, but instead limiting those ADU requirements to areas in the urban growth boundary. This means that cities need to work with their county counterparts to make sure that the reasonable regulations are in place when we try to annex into these areas. Thanks. Back to you, Craig.
Thanks, Erin. I hope you've enjoyed watching this legislative update. Check out our 2018 summary of bills, which will be coming out this week and include the bills that we've just talked about, plus many more. And in the meantime, stay tuned by following us on social media and on our website. Thank you for watching.